Hello, welcome back to Learn Economia. So we are continuing with the discussion of solved sample questions for UGC NET. The first question in this video is devaluation usually causes internal price to move in what direction? Whether it would fall or rise or it would remain unchanged or none of this. We know that devaluation is the deliberate downward adjustment to the value of a country's currency relative to another country's currency or a group of currency. Since it is relative to other countries' currency, internal price remains unchanged. So the right option is, or the right answer is, it would remain unchanged. When there is devaluation, it will cause the internal price to remain unchanged. It would affect all the exports as well as imports. In the case of devaluation, exports would become less expensive and imports would become more expensive. Devaluation is a kind of monetary policy tool which is used in countries that have fixed exchange rate or semi-fixed kind of exchange rate. Uh, it is very often seen that people confuse devaluation with a depreciation. In the case of devaluation, there is a deliberate adjustment, downward adjustment, whereas in the case of depreciation, even though there is a downward kind of movement happening, it is not deliberate. It will happen accidentally or it happens by chance. The opposite of devaluation is revaluation, where there is a upward adjustment to the value of a country's currency relative to other nations' currency. Coming to the second question, the supply side economics lays greater emphasis on the point of view of dash. We have producer, global economy, consumer, and middleman in the options. The right answer is producer, because by reading the question itself, you could understand that it is asking about supply side. So supply is a concept which is familiar, which is actually which could be related to the producer, because it is a producer that supplies goods in the market, right? So it focuses upon the um, producer. If you are looking into the demand side, it is a consumer who demands the products. So it, in the case of demand side, it takes care of the interest of the consumer. The third question asks like this: which of the following should cause the aggregate demand curve to shift to the right? So you know that the aggregate demand curve would be shifting to the right. So what can be the cause of the same? Options are an increase in the purchase by the federal government, then increase in the real interest rate, appreciation of American dollar, and decrease in the money supply. The right answer is an increase in the purchase by the federal government. So here purchases in the sense that, just take an example of the federal government or any other kind of government taking or purchasing shares what or purchasing the government securities from the hands of people. Just think about a repurchase. The government some days ago have given these securities to the people, and right now the government is purchasing these securities back from the hands of the people. So the security is flowing from the hands of the people to the government. That is one side flow. The other side of the coin is that the government would be paying some money back to the public, because the government has accepted the securities from people. Now the government is paying back to the people, so there would be fund flow or the flow of money from government to the public. Now the public has got some money with them, so as a result of the same, there will be an increase in the aggregate demand, and as a result, the aggregate demand curve will shift to the right. That's explanation. The next question is that what is meant by price discrimination? We know that price discrimination is something which we could be seen in, that could be seen especially in the monopoly market. The monopoly seller would be discriminating prices among the buyers. So what does it mean? Whether it is increase in the price of the commodity over time, or whether it is a situation where the same product is sold to different consumers at different prices, or whether it is a subsidization of the product by the government to sell it at a lower price, or whether it is general decrease in price of the community over time. Actually, it is a situation where the price of the product is sold to different consumers at different prices. Answer is B. There can be various degrees of monopoly. You could see you could see in the various degrees of price discrimination that you could see in the monopoly market. The seller would be discriminating the buyers. It could be based on the prior relationship of the seller with the buyer. It could be based on some other criteria. Anyway, uh, this price discrimination involves selling the same product at different prices to different buyers. That's it. And it is found in a monopoly market. This is mainly because the seller in the monopoly market has got the entire market power with him or her. That is what makes the seller to do like this. I mean, that is what the seller to go for discriminating prices or price discrimination. Next question is, in the view of the fact that kerosene is an inferior good in India, what are its implications, or what is its implications? The options are, as households get richer, they consume less of kerosene. Over time, there is a decline in the quality of kerosene. Then government needs to stop subsidies on kerosene. You have to select out of these which all are correct. The right answer is only one. I mean, the option which tells that as households get richer, they consume less of kerosene. Why? The question which is given that kerosene is an inferior good. What are the characteristic features of an inferior good? Once you get richer, you will set away you will set aside only less amount of your income on inferior goods, because you will be moving to superior goods now when you have more amount of money with you. So that's the correct answer. Generally, kerosene is used by a kind of fuel by the poor people. As they get prosperity or as they get richer, they will consume little of the fuel. I mean, kerosene. Next question is, which of the following is a fixed cost to manufacturing firm in the short run? So what are the key words in this question? Fixed cost and short run. You are dealing with the short span. You are dealing with short run, means mostly less than a period of 1 year. So the options are insurance on buildings, overtime payment to worker, cost of energy, and cost of raw materials. Overtime payment to worker, it is variable, right? Because once you reduce the number of workers, you have to pay less to the wage bill, and once you increase the number of workers, you have to pay more to the wage bill. Now coming to cost of energy, it too depends upon your level of production, and cost of raw materials also depends upon your level of production. But insurance on buildings is something that is fixed. If your premium is something that is fixed, even if you incur a loss or a profit, that doesn't matter here. Whether you incur a loss or whether you incur a profit, that is not a question here. Even if you incur a loss, you have to pay premium, and this would be counted under your fixed cost, because this is independent of the level of your production. Next, the average fixed cost curve will be in what shape? Whether it is a rectangular hyperbola, whether it is downward sloping convex to the origin, or it is downward sloping but a straight line, or it is U-shape. What is the shape of a average fixed cost curve? We know that the total fixed cost is constant. Irrespective of your level of production, you have to incur this particular amount of money. So average fixed cost curve actually diminishes with output. Once you increase your production levels, this means that your average fixed cost would come down, right? So the average fixed cost curve is actually in the shape of a rectangular hyperbola. Next, an exceptional demand curve is the one that slopes in which direction? We know that usually a typical demand curve would be in a downward sloping curve. It slopes downward to right from left. Now, a typical demand curve would be in the shape of a supply curve. A typical demand curve would be in the shape of a downward sloping curve, whereas in the case of an exceptional demand curve, this would be in the case of an upward sloping supply curve. Same as in the case of an upward sloping supply curve. So an exceptional demand curve is the one which slopes upward to the right. When demand curve slopes downwards from left to right, higher the prices would reduce the quantity demanded. But when it is upward sloping, what happens is that there is a positive relationship between price as well as the quantity. So this is something it is exceptional. Now, a direct question: who among the following has suggested migration to accrual accounting system from cash-based accounting system? The answer is C. Rangarajan. Next question: which of the following terms is used in economics to denote a technique of avoiding a risk by making a counteracting transaction? Options are dumping, hedging, discounting, deflating. The question keywords in the question, search for the keywords. First of all, technique for avoiding a risk. And you are talking about some ways to avoid your risk. And next clue is that counteracting your transaction. You are counteracting your transaction. So dumping, you know, right? A foreign country will dump their goods in some other countries. That means that it will sell their goods in some other countries at a lower price. Now, hedging means that it is used in limiting or offsetting the probability of loss from fluctuations in the prices of commodities or currencies or securities. So the right answer is hedging. Next question: in the parlance of economy or commerce, what is gilt-edged market? When we say gilt-edged securities, these are we are actually referring to government securities, gilt-edged securities. It is considered to be very safe. So it is not gold and silver market, because you know that in the gold and silver market there will be fluctuations. If there are fluctuations, that means that there can be high risk, and also if the risk is high, you know that the return can be very high. So there exists a positive relationship between risk and return. If risk is high, return would be high, and if risk is low, return would be low. The second option is industrial security market. Here also the risk can be high, because risk can be high in the sense that it actually the securities of a particular industry would depend upon the market fluctuations, how the market is considering this industrial security. Now the third option is market of safe securities. Market of safe security, that is what gilt-edged security or gilt-edged market means. So best example is your government securities. Government securities come under gilt-edged securities. Government security market is known as a gilt-edged security market because it is safe. Since the risk is less, return is also less there. Now, next question is: when the price of commodities, goods and services start declining consistently, the phenomenon is known as what? You know that when it is increasing consistently or when it is rising consistently, the phenomenon is known as inflation. Now, on the opposite, if it is declining consistently, the meaning is that there is deflation in the market. When the prices of the commodities and goods start declining consistently, it is deflation only. Deflation is because of a fall in the aggregate level of demand. That is, there is fall in how much of the whole economy is willing to buy and the price for goods. Coming to option C, negative growth, it involves a contraction in the business sale or earning. Market capitalism is an economic system which supports private enterprises within a free market, which means a production being privately owned. Okay. Next question: economic growth is usually coupled with what? Deflation, inflation, hyperinflation, stagflation. The right answer is inflation, because with the increase in GDP, the aggregate demand would increase, right? Because more production means people have more disposable income in their hands. This means that the consumer spending would increase. As a result, price rise in response. In conclusion, because aggregate demand grows faster than long-term aggregate supply, and economic growth will be coupled with inflation. And what is known as hyperinflation? It occurs when the country experiences a very high and actually very high rate of inflation. Okay, and economic growth is usually coupled with inflation, not hyperinflation. Usual typical inflation only. In an economy, a condition of lack of money supply in comparison to the supply of goods will lead to what? So money supply is less, and supply of goods and services in relation to goods and services, the problem is deflation. Deflation may be caused by a combination of supply of money for goods and services and supply of money, demand for money. specifically the supply of money going down and supply of goods going up. Last question, just consider the following statements and see which of these are correct, or which of these is correct. Two sentences are: inflation benefits debtors. Second, inflation benefits bondholders. Actually, one only: inflation would benefit debtor. Inflation redistributes wealth from creditors to debtors. So lenders would suffer, whereas borrowers would benefit whenever there is an inflation. So that's all. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to this channel for more videos. And I welcome you to my Telegram group and Telegram channel to discuss your doubts there. There have been a lot of people who are benefiting as a result of being a part of both of this. I'll be providing the links of the same in the description box, and thank you for watching.